So welcome. For this tutorial, I'm just going to be showing you how to recreate the Tesla logo in Adobe Illustrator. So when you first open up the program, what you'll see should be what you're looking at on the screen right now. And so what we're going to do first is create the canvas in which you will be making the logo on. So what you'll do is that you'll first go here to New File, and then this window will pop up saying new document, and basically we're just going to pick what size we want. So I'm going to click here print, and this is the dimensions for A4. If you don't have this available, you can just have it here, and then you can click A4 as well. And then over here you have the settings that basically just indicate what properties your document will have. So the size is here. I want it to be landscape. So I'm going to click here. And then you can make all these other settings, but these aren't necessarily relevant for now. But just make sure that under raster effects, you have 300 ppi. So ppi stands for pixel per inch, and that just helps to affect the resolution. So we want it to be high resolution, so it's high quality. So we click on 300 ppi, and then we click on create. And so you should have now, your window should look like this. And now you have the artboard, which is this, and the artboard is where we're going to be working. And so also just before we begin, if you go to Window and Workspace, just make sure it's on Essentials Classic. So this is just it's just so that we all have the same layout, so that when you're doing it from home, you also have the same layout, so it's easier to find all the tools I'm working on. I also recommend it as the best layout to have for the program. And so we're going to be recreating the Tesla logo. And so you should have a photo of the Tesla logo already with you. I'm sure that this will be emailed to you or will be accessible to you. And so what I'll do is that I want to have the Tesla logo image in the document, so I have it there for reference. So what I will do to put it in there, and I have it saved on my computer, I will simply just go to File, and then I will go on Place, and then a window will pop up, and then you just have to go to where you have that saved. So for me, it's in my downloads. And so for me, let me just make sure list, make sure it's by date added. Oh, why do I not have it? Oh, here it is. So and then once I found it, I then click place. And then I should be able to just place it anywhere. And here it is. So obviously it's a bit big right now. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to scale it down to make it the right size. So I'm going to zoom out. So you can do this just by pinching or by clicking Control minus or Command minus if you're on a MacBook. So I'm just going to zoom out and then scale that correctly by using the anchors in the corners. And make sure to hold Shift down so that it scales it correctly to scale. So I'm doing this by dragging at the anchor and then also holding down Shift so that it scales it proportionally. So I'm going to zoom in again. So to zoom in, if you're on a Windows, you just click Control plus, or if you're on a Mac, you click Command plus at the same time. So now that it's here, I now have that as a reference. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be working on top of this. So what I would recommend is just to make this, so if you click on the object, go to opacity here, which is in the top window, make that about 50%, just so I can differentiate that between what I'm going to be working on and then I'm going to be working on top. So after I've done that, I'm then going to want to make a new layer. So if you go to the bottom right of the program, you'll have this plus button in a square. So I'll click on that for a new layer, and you'll see that I now have a new layer created on top. So whilst I now have that, you can see that whenever I hover on top of the image, it gets selected. And so that might become annoying when I'm then making the logo. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lock that. So all I do is click in this empty square between the eye and the color. And you can see here, it says toggles lock, so editable when blank. So I'm going to do is I'm just going to click lock. And now when I click on top, you can see that it now just isn't really affected. And so this is going to make it easier when we're working on top. But when we're working, we need to make sure that we're clicking on this layer as we're working on that layer. So we're going to be working on top. So moving forward, to make this logo, the main tool that we're going to be using is going to be the pen tool. So the pen tool looks like this here. So I've just highlighted to show where it is. So we'll click on the pen tool. And what I'm going to do is that now I'm just going to start making up the outline of the shape. And so what I'll do is that I'll just start by, so basically I think it takes a bit of practice in order to be able to do this, but you'll get the hang of it as you keep going on. So what I'll do is I'll click and drag, and then I'll have that one anchor. So then I'll then go to another place, click that, make another anchor, and we just keep doing that whilst we do the whole shape. So as you saw, what I've done is I've used, so you have these anchors which we're making, but then you also have these handles which affect the angle of it. And so we'll tweak those a bit later. But just when you drag, you control the anchor. So let me just do it again. So what I'll do is when I click and hold and then drag, I've confirmed where the anchor is, but then I'm also using the handles to decide the angle that's correct for the shape. And so here's where it becomes a little bit more tricky is because um, these anchors also kind of mean that if I make my next one and I drag, it's curved. But what I want to do for this specific one here is that I want it to be a sharp point. So what I'm going to do is that I'm not going to drag when I make a sharp point. I'm just going to click. So by clicking, it just makes a point with no anchor. And what that does, that allows you to get a sharp corner. And then since this corner now that I'm going to is also sharp, I'm just going to click again. And then we have that. And so moving forward, I'm just now going to keep on finish off the rest of the shape by making anchors. But because now we have curves, I'm now also just going to make sure that I'm then clicking and dragging. Here we go, to make sure we have the right angle. Amazing. We'll keep on going. Just trying to make sure that we get the right angles. I'm going to do another one over here. As you can see, I'm just dragging, I'm zooming in at times just to make sure I can get it as clearly as possible. There we go. And again. And then as you can see here, we have another corner. So if it's a corner, remember, all we do is just do a single click. Amazing. And also we can tweak this later, don't worry, so this isn't final, so we can change this a bit later by manipulating the anchors. And then, because we have a sharp corner again, all I'm going to do is click. There we go, we have a sharp corner. And then I'm going to go in again with the click, hold, and drags, so I can make those anchors at the correct angles. So here we are. Yep, just keep going. I'm gonna zoom in again, just so I can get the proper, so I can get I can get a really good look at is what I'm doing. Just going to do it in the middle here, just to make sure it's correct. And then I'll just touch where it is. And if you see this little circle in the bottom right corner of the pen tool, that means that you're now finishing off a loop. So you're now making a closed shape. So I click on that. And now what do I have? I now have that first shape done. And so I can just notice there's some areas where it's maybe not as smooth as I'd want it to be. This is just me being a perfectionist. So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to click on this, which is a curvature tool. And then when I do that, I can click on this, and then I can tweak it if I want to. And that's how I can just smooth out some of the areas which I feel like aren't as smooth as maybe they should be, such as here as well. I'm just going to, there we go. It's a lot smoother now. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So I have this. And so keep in mind that now that I have that, maybe it's a good time to introduce you to the selection tools. So you have this selection tool, which handles the whole shape. So that allows me to control the shape as a whole. But then there'll be times where maybe I want to tweak the specific handles of the anchors. So as now you can see, I can see the anchors that I made. And if I click on this anchor, I can now see the handles on it. And so if there's some areas where you want to tweak it that way, you can tweak it by moving those anchors. Just helps smooth it out. But I'm happy with my shape, so I'm going to leave it, but you can play around with that if you need to. So now that we have that, I'm then going to select the whole object using the selection tool because I don't need to work with the anchors. I'm happy with them and the handles. So I'm going to use the direct selection tool to select the whole thing. And so, of course, the one thing that we do need to remember with the Tesla logo is that it's full black. So what I want to do now is just to make the whole shape black. And so to change the colors, we have these settings here to the left. And so I want the logo to be solid black. So currently what we have is that it's filled in white. And then this is the outline, but in the program, it's called the stroke, as you can see here. And so the settings here affect the fill and the stroke. So the fill is the color inside and the stroke is the outline. But I just want a fill of black and no outline. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to double click here and then I have all the colors here. So what I can do is that I'm just going to tweak this until I get a solid black. Amazing. And now just to get rid of the outline that I don't want, I'm just going to click on that. And so now that the outline's the one that's on top, it now shows me that I'm in control of that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this white box with the red line, which in the program just means that there's nothing for that setting. So for the outline or the stroke, I don't want that to be anything. So I'm just going to click on that and then now it has no outline. So now I have that top shape. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to not recreate, I'm now going to move on to this bottom shape and do that one just in the exact same way that I've done the top one. So I'm just going to do that same thing again and you can just watch me do that. There we go. And there we go. So we've made those two shapes, but now I just want to make it more of a logo. So because at the moment it's two separate shapes, but I want it to be both. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select both of the shapes using the selection tool because I want to deal with them as solid shapes, not with the anchors. And after I've selected both of them, I'm going to do what's called grouping them. So if I click on group, I now have them as one shape. And what I can do now is that I can then lock that because I'm happy with that top layer and then unlock this bottom layer, which is the layer with the logo. And I can go ahead and delete that using the delete selection. And in the layers panel, I've deleted that layer. So I'm just going to delete that. And now I have my logo, nice and done. And so I've shown you how to make the Tesla logo now. And so remember that through this tutorial, we've gone through how to use the pen tool. I've taught you the differences between the selection tool and also the direct selection tool and how different you'd use those. I've gone through the color and stroke, set the fill and stroke settings to help you know how to color and stroke them. I've gone through the layer panels very, very briefly, just showing how to add new layers, how to delete a layer, and how to lock layers if you need to. Um, and so now, if you want to export that file as an image so you can use it outside of this program, you just go to File, which is in the layers, or it's File if you're on a Windows as well. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and export as, and then ask me I want to save it. I'm just going to put Tesla logo and click use art. No, you don't need to click use